a strange weekend in the WWE this week, and did John Cena and CM Punk deliver in Saudi Arabia? This is the Golden Shovel podcast, officially the number 17 ranked wrestling podcast in the UK for the whole month of June, despite only one audio episode. As always, this week I am joined by our resident SmackDown expert, Daz.
Rather than a salute, I'm going to give everyone you.
For those of our audios, wearing a bright pink JSO t-shirt. And our developmental talent, Roscoe.
July is going to be our month, folks. How are we doing?
July is going to be a difficult month because we've got 8 shows, a house move and a holiday. To figure it out. And everything's happening on a Wednesday morning. Overall thoughts on the weekend. I was disappointed in Raw and SmackDown, and Night of Champions I think it's easier to give my thoughts when we actually go match by match, but I wasn't massively impressed by it. Does?
I agree, Raw and SmackDown. Thought both were of a pretty poor standard, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by Night of Champions, given it's a show in Saudi. I actually thought it delivered more than I was expecting.
Ross,
the crowd
probably
the best,
the best Saudi crowd. I was going to ask that exactly. Best Saudi crowd so far.
It's the case of like any match can be elevated by that crowd, but my God, I did not expect those guys to come in with such levels of hype.
It gives me hope for the Rumble.
Yeah,
and makes me really want to have this new studio set up for the end of January. We'll just run through plan the night for folk listening, watching. Is run through the 6 matches for Night of Champions. We'll cover the title matches on Raw and SmackDown, but realistically, none of us want to talk about the rest of the shows because they were, as Daz likes to say, absolute dog shit. Usual quick pre-discussion plug. You can now find us pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts, apart from Amazon, because for some reason they make you wait a week after submitting. But Apple, Spotify, Listen Notes, and of course on the YouTube channel, Golden Shovel. And anywhere in the show notes, if you go down below, you'll see our Buzzsprout link, which takes to our site with all our links to everywhere else, so you can find us on all the usual socials.
Finally seen 17 as the tagline.
Finally seen 17. Match number 1, Cody and Randy. Now, we had this 3-0 Randy last week in our prediction show, and ultimately it didn't do with what was actually happening in the ring. It was purely because none of us, or all of us, were fed up just seeing Cody winning absolutely everything. Slight tease of the heel turn, maybe post-match, just a little bit of a language change, but I thought it was a good match. They went just under 20 minutes, so it was a good match. A rare match between 2 top talents with no interference, which is unbelievably rare in the Triple H era. But the disappointing thing for me is I don't think Cody's the guy at SummerSlam to dethrone Cena. I don't think we're getting Cena Cody 3, which we said last week, which means that we're in a position where we're almost ruling out Cody as one of the guys that could do that. Despite the fact that he should be in that conversation, as we said last week. I'm going to hold off on saying the line. I'll wait a couple of minutes. I'm just seeing this as there has to be some sort of multi-man match at some point for this title, just with the way everybody's involved. That's your thoughts on that opening match and what you think is going to happen moving forward with both these guys?
Yeah, I thought as a wrestling match, storytelling, it was good. I'm surprised it opened the show, I'll be honest. But they did deliver. Like you said, we spoke about it in our production show last week. I didn't think Cody was the guy to win King of the Ring, but Randy doesn't need it either. So it was definitely a strange booking. I agree. I mean, I'm not saying we won't get John and Cody 3 because it would not be unheard of to get such nonsense, but I can see the vision a little bit for SummerSlam now, post this match. For one of Ross's phrases, it's a bit chaotic right now with all of this talent, and I don't really know who's actually feuding with who right now, the way it's looking. So I do foresee a multi-man match in the future at SummerSlam for this title. How many there will be, I don't know. I would probably hazard a guess at 4, possibly.
Might I suggest 6 men?
No, you're not getting an Armageddon Hell in a Cell. I don't know how many times.
6 guys in the Hell in a Cell.
This is
It's
not
there.
SmackDown versus
Right
Raw
there.
2006. This cannot happen.
It should happen. Ross, obviously, prediction-wise, we were massively off, and we've always said that when we do these predictions, it is about suspending belief a little bit and trying to not only fantasy book, because we love a bit of fantasy booking, but try and book within the confines of what's actually happening week to week.
Yeah.
And the fact that John Cena's in-ring work seems to have ramped up the last few weeks.
It has.
You almost felt like we wanted to give Cena Orton one more chance, because the storytelling was there the first time in at Backlash, but perhaps the in-ring work wasn't quite at the level we would have expected for the two guys.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair comment, and now it doesn't. Now that's kind of up in the air. We don't really know when that's coming, if that's coming. There's still a chance of it. It is a real shame because, yeah, as you say, it looked like we were onto something there, and then it may have been snatched away from us just a little bit. But you just never know. As Daz says, there's chaos kind of all across a lot of this main event scene, kind of on both brands, I would say.
Yeah.
So you just never know. But I do hope that we're talking in December and that maybe that feud's came round
After Cody John 6. Yeah.
And that's my only worry. I mean, arguably, I say it was match tonight. Actually, I'm looking at the match list here again, and there wasn't. Okay, there was one weak match in the card, which we'll get to.
And even then, I don't think it was necessarily a bad match. It just wasn't as good as... I think it was okay. We'll get there.
Aye. Half the match was alright. Half not so much. The other 5 matches I thought were solid, and I think Cody versus Randy was as good a match. It lived up to the sort of 15, 20 years in the making from the Legacy days. And I was happy with it. It's just a shame that we're kind of talking about what next. Randy's next match will be announced on Friday night, but obviously SmackDown was taped this week, and we'll get to that later in the show, hopefully. And I know we picked Randy 3-0, but I think it's safe to say there wasn't any actual surprises. We were all expecting Cody to win. We were probably picking Randy more in hope. And we'll probably circle back to that story a little bit when we cover Cena and Punk and what's coming, because certainly on the Friday night, I think there was a realisation from most people that John Cena just is not going to get booed for the rest of the year. However, his current persona is now getting momentum. It's now starting to show it's working. No doubt Dwayne will show back up in like a week's time and just fuck it all again after they've managed to pivot. Match number 2 is a Raw match. It's a women's division match, which ends up seemingly being my area on the usual weekly shows. For those on audio that are joining us in the first couple of times, last week was prediction show, this week's a Fallout show. Week to week, Ross covers NXT, Daz covers SmackDown, I cover Raw. It happened by accident, but it seems to work really, really well for us.
Yeah, we've typecast ourselves almost, but
absolutely pigeonholed,
but it worked. And Daz is what I watched because SmackDown's 2 hours from this week. So I've left myself with the 3 hours.
And it's pre-taped, so I don't even need to watch it.
I know. You can watch a match tonight. This is where I'm going to throw out my first nominee for the Golden Shovel this week, which, again, for all the listeners, I apologise, I completely forgot about last week.
Yeah,
but
we got the Golden Shovel last week.
Yeah, I took it myself. It's a weekly award for the booking decision that leaves us scratching our heads. It's Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez. Now, I will acknowledge Rhea Ripley as the top star in all of women's wrestling right now. There is no doubt she is head and shoulders above anyone else in terms of being a star on the mic, in the ring, an established persona. She was always going to be involved at a high level at Evolution, which, spoiler alert, world title match, obviously. But Raquel had just managed to build a little bit of momentum post-Liv because she doesn't live Shadow, lives, if Rhea's the best, lives in the tier right with her. Liv Morgan, Io, and Rhea are the top 3 on Raw, and it's not even close with anybody else at the moment. Raquel built a little bit of momentum. She looked good on the SmackDown the week before. On Raw the week before, with putting Rhea through the table. The reason why I'm not happy with this outcome is that the interference to allow Raquel to win was there, and allow Rhea to remain strong and still go after Io. But not only do I feel like it hurts Raquel's momentum, I just feel like it hurts the women's tag titles again. I know the announcement came on Monday. There'll be a fatal 4-way featuring teams from all the brands, which is great. But there's been no title defences for weeks and weeks and weeks, and Raquel finally gets momentum and loses. Ross does. Just, I guess in general, we all. I think again we all picked Raquel.
We did,
again,
yeah.
Probably more in hope,
Mm-hmm.
even though we knew Rhea was going over. Is that just naivety, or was it purely hope that maybe they would just do something different for a change?
It was probably hope. I think we thought that with the previous PLE, we pretty much got it as a group. We got it spot on. Obviously, IDV
Don't you
twice.
piggyback on our picks?
Aye.
We'll see if that's the case when we get to Solo and Jacob Fatu. We'll see who's saying that then.
That'll be interesting. But I digress. It does make you wonder what their plan is here. Like, I agree. Whilst the match itself was largely fine, I think you could argue this was a street fight, but wasn't really a street fight. It was just a no DQ match, really. If we're being perfectly honest, there was nothing street fighty about it, really. The booking at the end does kind of leave a little bit to desire. Like, I don't know if are we getting like a. Are they gonna? Is this them admitting that they might do some sort of weird merging where these are going to be cross promo belts or something? I'm not really sure what the end game is here, because surely in theory the team from NXT cannot win this. Unless
that's how these titles came about, wasn't it? Because they were merged with the NXT Women's Tag Titles years ago. So in theory they should be, but it hasn't worked. I don't really have any specific question to ask. It's just your thoughts on this in general, because it's just both had to look strong coming out of Saturday, and I don't think it's helped any of them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Some good spots in the match that actually made Raquel look good, which makes the booking decision at the end a bit more confusing.
Even stranger.
I agree.
And touching on the tag titles, I actually think Sol Ruka and Zarya won. I actually think that's who'll win the tag titles in that field.
I would love,
because I think they'll go in a wee bit of show hopping, and they'll appear on each brand and defend titles. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to it when we recap briefly on Raw from last night in terms of what's next for Rhea. I suppose the only way the booking makes sense is if they're planning to offload the Judgment Day over the next couple of weeks, and even
that's
at
even
that,
more
did she need to
confusing after what happened Monday night.
Eh?
That's even more confusing after what happened Monday night.
I know. It's a very odd scenario that and I suppose I'm going to cut them a bit of slack in the sense that they flung this together at short notice because of the injury. So how far ahead they've actually thought for that booking, I'm not sure. It was maybe just get past Night of Champions and then we'll fucking work it out for there. But yeah, strange booking. I actually enjoyed the match, but strange booking at the end.
I think it's fair to say that you're probably right that going into that, it was just a case of Rhea needs to look strong because it is Rhea versus Io, which people are giving the old Rhea Hogan slagging match, but she's not burying people. She's at that level and she earned that, and she earned that when she was like 22 or 23. She was one of the top women in the company, and the fact was, we use this phrase a lot, you know, Daz, but she was so undeniable in NXT, they basically couldn't call her up too early because she would have had to have gone straight to the top of each division.
My only concern with it, though, is that Io's not defended her title since she won it.
She can't
and she's going to drop it to the person she beat twice. So I just... It does kind of bury Io a little bit. And how did she become... Don't get me wrong, it's also the match that kickstarts her title reign. If she beats Rhea,
Yeah.
theoretically she becomes that undeniable champion. But
And Rhea
she's
can
not
take a
defended
loss.
it since she won it. So
it's interesting because if you're asking me for a really early prediction on that match, I'm going to actually go with the same prediction I made for the Solo Jacob match, is that I think ultimately Rhea comes out the feud with the title, but I don't think it's Evolution. I think it's Australia.
which obviously means Rhea will win the title, because if we move on to the next match...
No, we've still got one match to go.
Inexplicably, we'll lose it in Australia.
Wait, are we actually going to talk about Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross? Are we actually going to talk about that?
Right, we're currently at 15 and a half minutes of recording, so we're going to go to 17 minutes. Sami and Karrion Kross thrown together at the last minute. Actually a good match. I just feel like for storyline purposes, again, we went... I think I picked Sami, I can't remember, but I think we all picked Sami. Again, the opposite of the last two matches, we all picked Sami, but we all said it should be Kross because it needs to follow the story. When Sami won, I think we all thought, right, cool, it's one and done. And then
Monday night happened.
Monday night, Kross attacks him again, but then Sami goes out and goes back to his other feud.
Yeah, this is what I mean by chaos, and I don't know who's feuding with who. And Ross was there. Ross was in the live with me on TikTok.
We were,
and actually, as he was haluva kicking and running end to end in the ring, I actually was saying to Ross, "Oh, look, he's going to follow him and he's going to haluva kick him here." And lo and behold, and I said I said it on the live as soon as he pinned him. If I can book it, it's shit booking. Like, I don't get paid to do this. So, which brings me to my next point. I want paid to do this, Sanders. So,
Ross and I were talking about it before they came in. We were working on that.
Nice.
If you do want to help the channel, go and subscribe everywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, is it Aiden? Shout out to Aiden, who asked the question why one of our shorts only had two likes, including his.
Yes, he did.
I'm telling you, what we talk about, how we talk about things is better than most podcasts on this topic. We're not just clickbaiting, and we're not just engagement baiting. We are actively trying to have proper conversations about the storytelling, the booking, and where it's going, and why we think it's going that way.
Unless it's Dave Meltzer.
But then an adult conversation would be to shut that cunt off. Ross,
we only get one more, by the way.
I don't know how many of them are allowed.
That's it, gone. There goes this week's monetization on YouTube. That's so. Ross. Sami was always winning in Saudi, and that's ultimately why we all picked him. Does this feud have a future, or should Karrion Kross do something else before we get fed up with him just battling Sami every Monday night?
Yes, in the short answer, but I'll give you a longer one. So yes, I am the same as Daz. I was as perplexed when the match ends as it ends, and you go, right, okay, and then you go to Monday and he beats him up again, and he's shouting again, like, basically, admit you're a liar, and then doesn't then interfere in the main event. That's the one question mark I had. It's fine for Sami to go into that tag match, but like, why does he not even come out as a beatdown, or was he out? Like, again, I haven't read the dirt sheets to see if, like, when the cameras went off air, did he then come out after like, everyone is yeeting in the crowd, which would have at least made some sense.
He kind of came out
exactly
after it because
for those on audio,
Daz
is yeeting. But yeah, I just don't understand it, man. I don't really get Karrion Kross as a concept, but like, I don't understand what they're then doing with him here. It's bizarre.
Karrion Kross is just a figment of your imagination.
What is a Karrion Kross?
I'd almost prefer that. I'd almost prefer they went like the Kevin Owens and Ezekiel Elias route of it's only Sami Zayn that sees him because he gets battled every week and nobody else. That would be fit. That's at least
actually be worth it.
I can suspend belief enough to get into that. But as you say, Sami's already been partially beat down. You would go out there and obviously on Monday night it went straight into SmackDown's team. Therefore, there would have been no dark matches or dark segment. Okay, time for me to take my medicine. I'm going to start off by giving just 20 or 30 seconds on reminding my logic for this. and then I'm going to hand over to Daz because I know you're number one Solo Sikoa SmackDown fan. The reason that I picked Fatu in this match is that I felt that it was too early to take the title off him. However, ultimately, we did all agree that at the end of this feud, Solo would be the US champion. I still think that's the case. I think we discussed last week that what we want to see from Jacob in the next 6 to 8 months is this: can he have a high level feud that doesn't involve the bloodline and doesn't involve the US title? And then that means that you've proven that this guy could carry a show as he then goes to the world title picture. I have no issue with the outcome of this match. I think Solo has shown a bit of personality again. Like, why did they have this guy be some sort of stoic, quiet person for so long, and then he's just taking the piss at everything? He's so funny, the facial expression, everything's brilliant. Like 4 letters, 1 word, stop. It's comedy gold. Obviously, it ended with some interference. It was Hikuleo, who is, I think, going by the name of Tala Tonga. Although I did see on Twitter that somebody says you should call him Tagalonga, which I thought was pretty good. Another tag along for the Tongan Islands, which I thought was genius. Daz, is it time to acknowledge Solo Sikoa?
It's certainly time for other people to acknowledge Solo Sikoa. Yeah, I said this last week, and I said it before Money in the Bank. The guys had to put the time in, and he's had to wait because he was ultimately in Roman Reigns' shadow for so long. And I actually think the original plan would have been to push him potentially into the push that Jey Uso got had he not become so incredibly over. So I'm delighted to see Solo as the champ. He's personality-wise, he's now got a proper stable behind him with further conscription of the Inoue or whatever family. I don't know, man. They must have a lifetime deal where they just bring them in at a certain age. So I've got a real good feeling about this Solo. It's not going to be a bloodline because I think we've played that story to death, but he's stable. Is certainly one that should allow for a long US title run. I backed him for Money in the Bank. I'm actually glad he didn't win it because I'd prefer to see him as champion than holding the briefcase. So I'm intrigued to see where it goes. Obviously, Hikuleo wasn't the only return or debut, if you like. We also had the return of insert one of Tag Team here. And yeah, I actually thought I was concerned about the booking of 2 matches on the card. I was concerned about Cena Punk, and I was concerned about the booking of this match and how they got it right. I actually think they did it perfectly. I think it's a perfect way for... I wouldn't even say he's the bad guy. He's just the bad guy because the good guy's Fatu. So it was a perfect way to put him over in that match. Give him the title. Fatu can chase it for a bit. I think ultimately Solo still comes out the feud strongest, retains the title, and they'll move on to their own separate programs beyond that. Match of the night for me, this one.
I don't disagree. The storytelling was there. It was only 12 minutes. It was actually the second shortest match in the show.
Yep.
But it was 12 minutes of go. No dead spots. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to ask Magic Clips to clip this. Hopefully this works on Riverside.
Clip this, chat.
Clip this. Could we get Kevin Owens to come on the podcast and explain who these people are and how they relate to each other? Because as far as I'm aware, that was Tongans. It was Tangaloa and Hikuleo, who are Tongans, who are not Samoans, therefore they're not Anoa'i, therefore it's not a bloodline. Because Jacob and Solo are related. They're cousins or Jacob's or uncle. I don't know, because one of the Anoa'is has got 11 wains, I believe. That's children for him outside the west of Scotland. Tala and Tama, I don't know if they're related, but they're definitely from the same country. That's maybe as much as I can get. I'm going to check that right now with Ross talks. Ross, solid match, right outcome probably. What do you think happened? This is going to culminate at SummerSlam. Is there a match 2 in the middle of that, or is it a drawn out program with SummerSlam? Because Fatu can't lose 2 in a row unless it's the final match of the feud. Surely.
It looks like we're going to have some sort of drawn out program, which, if we've heard what's came out of the immediate SmackDown taping, this has continued on. We'll get there, I'm sure, but there are matches where some of the people involved in this feud have now faced each other again. And I've read the result, and I'm intrigued to see how that goes. I don't know if we want to put out a very brief spoiler alert. If you don't want to know, or you want to zip to the end, the next 10 seconds I'm going to tell you. So, okay, you've had your chance. So Fatu actually did pin Solo Sikoa on SmackDown. That is going to be aired on Friday. And then Tala Tonga and Tonga Lau then just start powerbombing him. So, great, fantastic. Just more chaos, bring it in. Yeah, I love this. I thought this was a match. It was probably my second favourite, but like between it and my favourite, it was like really neck and neck. Great viewing, right booking decision. We've criticised a lot of the booking on this show, this very specific PLE, but yeah, can't complain.
Just to clarify what you said there, Ross, it was actually Tonga Loa and Tala Tonga. Tama Tonga is still injured.
There's just too many of them, man.
Oh, it's great. That is great.
Tala and Tama are brothers, and Tangaloa is their cousin.
Okay. And they all love wrestling, which is great.
Yeah.
Or sports entertaining.
I'm going to need some sort of fucking family tree just there. So that I can figure this out every week.
I'm going to do one of those "This Is My Life" scenarios and film it for the YouTube channel and just run through the family tree of what that actually looks like.
To be fair, that probably do bits.
Watch this space.
Aye, so ultimately, certainly a great match, good storytelling. The thing for me is, and I'm going to touch on this in the last match as well, the interference was quick and decisive, led to the finish. Didn't last 10 fucking minutes. It happened, it was done, and then the story's going to continue. So yeah. Match 5. This was the one where Ross, you've picked right, Daz and I went wrong. Now, ultimately, I think there's a path for Asuka to still be SummerSlam opponent for Io. Perhaps Monday night clarified some of the reasoning behind it a little bit more, and that I think if Asuka had won on Saturday, you know Rhea's not winning Evolution because you want Asuka versus Io.
Yeah.
However, I feel like Jade Cargill was exposed. It's almost as weak as I've seen her look in a ring. It was an 8-minute match, and all that I remember is a botched finish and then an opponent whose shoulders weren't down for a 3 count because she pulled her right back. Is this as simple as the fantasy booking that Jay's going to go to SummerSlam, pin Tiffany, and get immediately cashed in on? It has to be, surely. She can't have a title run, can she?
I don't think so. I can't. The problem with someone like Jade is if you put her over as champ, who can actually take it off her is the problem you get, right? And the only way she can really drop the title is through cash in or interference. So I don't know is the answer to that question. I would prefer to see Tiffy retain and be cashed in on than watch Jade win the title, because I said it last week and it maybe sounded a bit baity, but 10 years ago she'd be a 15-time world champ. That's just the makeup of the division back then. Now she's not convincing as a champion other than size and raw power, but there's enough of that in the division. There's a lot of that going about. So I don't think she's ready to be world champion. The issue we've had, especially on the blue brand, which we'll come to, is that mid-card title has been atrocious. I think that's the perfect place for Cargill, even in a 3 to 6 month period. Establish yourself in ring with proper talent like the new champion, perhaps. Take the title, carry it for a little bit, even if you want to vacate it and move into the world title scene, do what you like. But for me, I think it's still at SummerSlam's probably too soon, given their in-ring ability at the moment.
Ross, you picked right on this, and to be fair, it was one of the ones where it was a coin flip. It didn't really matter who won it.
But what matters is I guessed right.
You're true.
There's that ego again.
Talk us through the match, and then your thoughts on what's going to come next for both of them.
I will freely admit, I was just in the moment watching Night of Champions, so I didn't write notes. I can remember everything that happened in every other match, and I do not remember this, which probably says an awful lot about how that match felt. I agree, though, there is only really a couple of ways that this can go. Asuka looked okay. She looked fine. We've never really had any issues with her. Like, we know that she can go in the ring. We know that she can hang with the best. The finish is not great. It doesn't look good on either of them. They can't really figure out what it is they're supposed to do. There's this weird delay, and it's clunky, and it's a shame because there was no other actual clunky real moment across the card. There was just this sort of like sticks out like a sore thumb, I think, which is a real shame. Where they go from here, I agree. I would say based on that showing, they're not even going to do the angle of her getting cashed in on, and she has like a 4-minute reign. Because I'm always wary, right? You see people online, and there's maybe an element of it where some people think that certain superstars get overly criticised. Karrion Kross actually is another one of the ones where people think he gets overly criticised. There's plenty of reasons to criticise him. Guy can't take a back bump. With Jade Cargill, she is actually good at so many of the parts of what it takes to be a really, really good sports entertainer. It's just the most important bit that she just falls down on, and it's a shame. But what do you do with her when she's been in that position now? Because you can't necessarily go back to NXT or something like that and go figure it out, because you're kind of stuck now. You're in this position. I honestly don't know what they should do with her other than you let her fail and then take her to limelight for a couple of months and then bring her back in, and hopefully you've fixed her in the background, which does seem a bit harsh.
Promotion where she can go and work.
The other one.
The thing I don't understand is I watch and go, has she got any better? Like, you look at Maxine, right? And I'm not saying that Maxine and Jade are on the same level, because I don't think Maxine's a particularly great wrestler either. However, she's a hell of a lot better than she was 2 years ago.
Mm. She's
an awkward body shape. She's got these massive long legs. When she does the caterpillar, it looks ridiculous, but like not in a bad way. And look at her legs are 15 feet in the air. I don't understand it. But Jade should be better than she is.
She should be. She really should be. I mean, you look at some of the women that are in NXT who are in development who could come in and just do stuff.
She had that long injury angle. Yeah. She had that injury angle. She was out for months. They could have extended it by 2 or 3 months and had her like an intense. But as you say, I don't know. I don't understand it. Is it just an inability to put it all together in the ring? Is that the bit? That is the most. Is that the most important bit that's missing?
She's not a wrestler, and that's ultimately she's a power lifter or whatever. She's not a wrestler. And as I say, 15 years ago that worked. 10, 15 years ago that was fine. But the talent you're in there right now is, and I feel bad for Asuka because there's never been a question mark over Asuka's ability in ring, and all of a sudden you put her with somebody who can't actually work, and it looked botchy. And even the finish, like, have you ever seen Asuka make an error like that? Because I'm not saying it's all Jade, but it was 80% Jade with the pin, the position. Watching it, I just felt, wow, that was awful.
But that actually happened 2 weeks in a row, didn't it? Our qualifying match was the same. The shoulder
exactly
was on the back of the back of her calf, so the shoulder wasn't down. And then that one there, she fixed that, and then for some reason they did put Asuka almost onto her stomach.
Possibly this is just the way it's supposed to be booked, and we fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and we're eating it up.
Aye.
Maybe she's the best worker of them all. Maybe she's the best.
And I know people are saying, how come every time certain people go abroad they're getting booed? And it's like, well, because they're shit. Or they're boring, there's nothing there like that. Asuka's universally beloved for what she is as a wrestler. The other thing is, and again, I would throw in a potential Golden Shovel nominee for this week, is the fact that Asuka was booked so strong coming back. And we said this last week, and immediately by having her lose this match, like we just killed Alexa Bliss and everybody else was in that fatal 4-way, and whoever else has lost to Asuka in the last few weeks. It's like you've not buried them, but
You've not
what
helped.
was the point? Why book Asuka so strong on return?
Yeah.
Just to do that. That to me is puzzling. I hope they have a plan going forward. We know, again, we're going to try and save as much of SmackDown's recording for next week's pod as we can, but we know Tiffy's next opponent at Evolution. Therefore, we know that Tiffy's taking the title at the SummerSlam. I just hope there's a plan, because I do feel like Tiffy's title reigns went stale as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, a little bit.
I also think it's the same on Raw. I think the only reason that we're not picking on Raw so much is because Io hasn't been featured, therefore it can't have went stale. But also we know what Io will do in the ring every time she gets in there. We know we're going to get a potential match of the night. We arguably had the last time she was proper in the ring was Mania, and we actually arguably had match of the weekend in that triple threat. So I hope there's a path forward. I think we spent more time talking about this match than the two of them went in the ring. Which just shows you.
The concern I've got with Alexa, what's happened is that Evolution feels like it's just going to be a 2-night Saturday night main event. The way the card looks right now, because outside it, Io and what's it called? Rhea. Outside
Rhea.
Io and Rhea, the card looks dreadful. And Ross, you posted the poster in the Discord earlier, and for those who haven't seen it, there's three big names and one who's been featured on TV quite a lot recently who aren't party to that, and it's surprising. That maybe just that means because they've not been booked yet, but I don't know. This Battle Royal, I'm not like, what are we doing? I don't get it.
I feel as though if you throw a Battle Royal in there, it's like you've run high deals. You have the again. We've had the Royal Rumble. We've had Money in the Bank. We've had Queen of the Ring, King of the Ring, and now we've got another Battle Royal. It's like every month there's just number one contender. Like,
I kind of get it. It's the women's PLE, so you want as many women as possible on the. Like, I get it, but of course we know what's at the end of it. We know it's at the end of it for someone, so it's actually a Battle Royal worth competing in. But if that's the case, why are those names not part of the...
Yeah, but it feels lazy, because you look at the names that are likely to be involved in other matches and you wonder who's actually going to be left for the Battle Royal. So Charlotte, spoiler alert, on Friday night, it's going to be announced that she can pick a tag team partner to win the tag team title match. We know who that's probably going to be based on the story of the last 2 months, and I'm looking forward to that.
Zelina Vega, I know it's going to be good.
It's two of your biggest names that are not going to be in that Battle Royal.
Yeah.
We're almost certainly getting Becky, Lyra, Bayley. So there's 3 other huge names.
Well, which has been confirmed as well.
Has it been confirmed
as a match?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we'll move on for that match, because I think that's just one that's frustrating us.
Get to the good bit.
To the main event. I'm going to be controversial here. I'm going to be controversial. Maybe it's not controversial, but I think it is. I finally feel that for the first time since the WrestleMania, we realised that The Rock was just going to abandon all hope. That the heel turn, if we can call it that, quote unquote, got some momentum. Now, is John Cena heel? No. He is maybe cheered everywhere at the end of the year. But this was like the first time where I'm like, yeah, he really needs to hold this title all the way to December, or as close to that as possible. The only way you should drop it before December is if you're going to give him the IC title to complete the Grand Slam. Now, I don't think it's at SummerSlam. I don't think it should be Cody. I'm going to shill for who I think it should be later on. And I'm probably going to get slagged off for being called a homer, which might give a bit of a spoiler alert. But I thought this match was pure cinema and absolute brilliance up until Seth Rollins' music hit. I didn't mind the tease of the cash in, but I just feel like every PLE Triple H is just trying to recreate WrestleMania 40, whatever one, 40. The Cody Rhodes win. Like, he doesn't need half your roster interfering. It is giving this confusion of who's actually feuding with who each week. Like, and Triple H confirmed that this will be the only time that Cena and Punk face off, which I think's wrong, because I still think Punk should be in the discussion for the retirement match.
Yeah.
But Daz, will come to you. Did Triple H basically waste John Cena and CM Punk to further CM Punk versus Seth Rollins' feud?
I'm going to say no. Right?
I like it.
And I'm going to give you the reasoning behind my reasoning behind that booking. There's no way for him to win if he doesn't book it like that. Because you can't end John Cena's retirement tour with the title A in Saudi Arabia and B this early. Right? So you lose a massive amount from John Cena's retirement tour if you take the title off him now. But also, Cena beating Punk without that interference, Punk doesn't get a world title shot until at the very earliest Royal Rumble. So you take Punk out of a main event picture entirely if Cena beats him clean, because you're right, Triple H said that that's the last time they two face off. So we know Gunther's booked up until SummerSlam, basically. So it'll be Survivor Series beyond that for Gunther as well. And then on Monday night, without talking about Monday Night Raw yet, there's an altercation. So I don't really know. I just don't feel like I don't feel like either man winning clean was a possibility. Certainly not John. I said it last week when I did my prediction. My only concern about Seth Rollins is that if it's a failed cash-in attempt, what that does to the stable. That was my concern.
By the way, just to clarify for the pod, we can talk about Raw if it's directly related to the stories for these matches. That's the only thing we'll hold back on is essentially a tag title match, because I don't want to talk about anything else that happened on Raw. It was shit. The good thing that came out of that for me, Ross, is Seth Rollins and CM Punk being in the ring on Monday night with Gunther elevates that title back to where it should be.
It does.
It doesn't. It's not just this afterthought. That's who should be in the ring with Gunther. But also, we did see the tease. He didn't want to hit Punk with the belt, but he had no issue using the fact that the last two moves on Punk were Rollins. So, is the Cena heel face turn coming? But if that happens, it's got to be a double turn with Cody, surely.
I think so. I just can't really quite work out the timing, because obviously you do have the end, towards the end of the match, where he's doing the whole, it's all good, and then he's looking at the camera with a deadpan face. And see, when he did that, I will freely admit, I was like, oh, it's like that. It's like, I thought you fucker, but you clever fucker. I was like, sensational, great. Give me more of that shit. I cannot wait to see where it goes. I cannot wait to see it. I've really, really enjoyed it from about 3 weeks ago to this point, because I agree it took far too long to get going, but it almost seems like it may be like a sort of runaway. Well, that's a concern. I'm hoping it's less peak and more runaway freight train now. Is what I'm really hoping for. That would be nice.
There's this really strange, like you talk about the potential turn coming, which would then in turn be a double turn. There is a heel turn coming, and I can't decide which one of Sami Zayn or Cody Rhodes it will be. There is a heel turn coming from one.
Maybe the latter.
But I don't know. I get this really. I don't know what it was about during this match. See, towards the end of the match, before the curb stomp, and before he hit him with the briefcase, there's a moment in the ring where Cena and Rollins go face to face, but it's not like a face to face for if you want this coming, it was almost like a, what the hell are you doing here? And I kind of get The Rock out of my head, because there's no way that he was there just to totally write the story off entirely.
Mm-hmm.
That is all linked, and I can't work out quite yet how.
Well,
I think The Rock's third man is in that stable somewhere. And I just can't work out.
We had the tease on Monday night, didn't we? Where Heyman said to Braun and Bronson that the Visionary is on a jet away dealing with Plan B. Now, was Rollins the third man for The Rock? Is there a third man from The Rock to come into that stable? Should we completely forget about The Rock's thing? Because let's face it, we might as well. The guy's a dick and he's not been there. Is Cena going to get betrayed? It's interesting. I just want to reiterate my point that John Cena is the greatest professional wrestler who ever lived. And CM Punk is probably his greatest or second greatest rival of all time. Therefore, the build-up was there, the story was there, it was always going to deliver from a storytelling point of view.
And it did. It really did.
I just think Triple H saying that this is the last time they'd wrestle is a mistake.
Only if you believe it to be true. Do you really believe that it's true?
I don't.
The issue I've got is he said it, and he said it in the press conference, the post presser, where he genuinely just speaks person to person. Yes, it's not there's no kayfabe involved.
But that's not always how those press conferences go, though, because think back to John Cena put Ron Killing's R-Truth through a table in one of those press conferences. So
neither of which
everything with a WWE logo on it, you do have to always be wary of working yourself into a shoot, brother.
I think it's the last time they'll face off 1-on-1.
Yes,
that I could buy.
I could see them be part of some sort of 6-man Hell in a Cell match.
Back to this again.
I mean, we'd all watch it.
I think they'd become the tag team champions in the build-up to a WrestleMania match.
I don't know. We've seen they finally confirmed that as War Games as well. There'll be a build towards War Games. The interesting thing is it's a baseball stadium. There is no roof or anything. But basically, I'm saying, how the hell are they going to suspend the cage? I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that, but I'm sure they'll build a rig.
Drop out of a helicopter, maybe. Several helicopters.
I know I asked the question, did they waste it? No. Am I happy with the finish? Also, no. Probably because I'm not enjoying the Seth Rollins faction work at all. Not from they're heels, therefore that's good. From it doesn't need Heyman and Rollins. And I think we're in a situation again where people can't be fucked with Seth Rollins, and it happens every so often when he's meant to be the guy, where you're just like, it doesn't really work for you. Like,
almost as unbearable as his wife sometimes.
Aye, and I don't understand it, because like, if you're asking me who's the top 3 wrestlers in the world, he's in the top 3, but he's the one of, if not the best on the mic. He's one of, if not the best in the ring. But this package just isn't working. I don't know if it's because, if you remember when he was the Monday Night Messiah and he had his wee team, and I think it was Buddy Murphy and whoever else, he's a selfish leader when he's a heel. Like, it's all about him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how, and he's playing the same character, so I don't see how that takes Braun and Bronson to the next level. But obviously, there'll be a turn, and Heyman will probably manage one of the Browns or both of them, whatever. I get that that's there, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's saying it's a we. It's they two guys are there to work for him, which means I feel as though it's holding them back. Like, Bronson Reed established himself as a world champion before he got injured. At that level, Braun Breaker it's as if they went, right, we can't afford another Gunther situation with the IC title. We'll put him in this stable. You're just holding it. I feel like you're holding the two guys back. I feel like you're holding Seth Rollins back. Like, I feel like if you're Seth Rollins, you put the two guys in the ring, you take out a champion and you pin them. Like, it just doesn't make sense. What are they doing? Like, Paul Heyman is claiming to Randy Orton, to Sami Zayn, to all these people over the last 3 or 4 months, I can move your brand and get you a title shot tomorrow. So why is Seth Rollins not world champion if the guy who's working with him has that power? I don't understand it.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
I'm getting myself wound up. But I'm like, and again, we've said this for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? But at the very earliest, John Cena loses the title SummerSlam. The more it's dragged on, the more we're saying it's War Games at the earliest, if not a retirement match. I kind of hope he loses it before. I kind of hope a retirement match is like some sort of tag team match where it's like.
I'm not wasting John Cena's last match as a tag team match.
I don't think he should lose New out, but I think he should put somebody over. I don't understand. You know what I mean? That's something we can fantasy about. That's maybe something we can fantasy about on a second video in a couple of weeks' time. But we know he's not losing it before SummerSlam, and we know that Gunther's the same because he's not dropping to Goldberg and he's not dropping it before Goldberg. So, what is the point in Seth Rollins being there with the briefcase every fucking week?
Take it off. In my fantasy booking scenario where John Cena retires with that title, I've brought this to people before in the group, so I will bring it now to the wider IWC. Is he will have that title, he will have his Hall of Fame ceremony, and then Seth Rollins will cash in on him during the ceremony and take it off of him there and then.
There is no way.
I can see a different direction in it. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I feel like at Night of Champions, when they showed the Royal Rumble promo package, that it basically put the final nail in what I believed will be the case. Cena will take the title, and the new world title will be won in the Royal Rumble. It will be up for grabs to the winner of the Rumble. I think the promo package was something along the lines of the beginning of a new era or something like that was in that promo package. And I just feel like Saudi have got the Rumble, all the money they could ever ask for. Maybe a big stupid belt that's going to be the new world title.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like we're going to crown a new world champion at the Royal Rumble, and John's going to walk away into the distance.
And then when we have the greatest WrestleMania next year, which is genuinely being rumoured that might be a thing, we'll have John Cena will come out for a retirement match and a champion match.
I can't wait till we get like the greatest Saturday night main event or something like that.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Just bomb all of these stupid PLEs, basically move them to Saudi Arabia.
See, I'm once again asking for, if what you've said is the case, which again I'm not opposed to. I don't disagree with. I think if anyone ever deserves to retire by world title, it's Cena. Surely you cash in on a vacant title. Like, just here's the briefcase, give me my belt. Like, just someday.
I mean,
like,
could, and then he could defend it in the Rumble. That would be cool.
That's what he would do.
Vacant strongman. He's got so many titles to his name. It's hard.
What I'm going to say is, I felt like for the first time ever, it felt like the John Cena story was going beyond week to week.
Yes.
Now I feel as though it's went back to that a little bit. That's my only concern.
Yeah, because we spoke about Punk
what's next
and what happened in the ring with Gunther on Monday night. But you're right, it's Gunther, Punk and Rollins in the ring. But then the Saturday night main event, it's actually Rollins and LA Knight. So how did he manage to worm his way into that picture as well? It's just
then Gunther's going to go off and retire Goldberg or something, and then come.
What I feel I would be amiss to not mention is LA Knight recreating the Undertaker meme last night, just appearing behind him. Excellent work. Probably the highlight of Raw for me, which is a damning statement on the product.
I've just realised something. So for him that it's listening on audio, whenever these guys are talking, I'm usually cycling through upcoming events, shows, making sure that we know what we're talking about here. Next week we're predicting Saturday night's mid-event.
Right.
It's a week in Saturday, and I can't be bothered. I don't like Goldberg's retirement match. Who gives a shit? LA Knight versus Seth Rollins. Again, it's going to end with Braun and Bronson getting involved. They won't let LA Knight go over. Who gives a shit?
Tammy and Peyton will be there as well.
Yep, the other match can only end one way.
We'll find out all of this and more next week.
No, I'm going to talk about.
And we're really trying to sell that to you, because I promise you it will be as shit as it sounds.
Aye.
It's doing wonders for all these people at home's excitement. No doubt.
We'll play a game next week. We'll have a game of WWE Hangman or something in the middle of the pod next week and try and
Aye.
liven it up a bit.
3 letters, can I get a W? Aye, 2.
4 letters, 1 word.
Right. That does it for at least the NOC Night of Champions segment. And we're going to jump back to the Friday night for a little bit of SmackDown. I'm really enjoying that transition every time I play it.
The transition that only he can hear, by the way. For
I
those at home.
hope it's in the recording.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just a man who's gone mad.
Interestingly, Night of Champions, 1 championship match. Random Friday night SmackDown, 3 championship matches.
2 championship matches on Night of Champions.
Bizarre.
Oh, yeah, so that was my bad.
Utterly bizarre. One's already forgotten about, though, which, again, it's not a good look, is it?
To be fair, I'll not go back to it, but Tiffany versus Nia, let's just skip straight past it and say, yeah, okay, fine, it happened, there was a finish, and that seems to have been ended now, and Tiffany's going a different direction. Great, because something needs to happen at a title reign. I'm bored of it, we're bored of it.
Yeah, but that's something isn't who it's going to be. That's not what needed to happen for that title reign.
That's a complete mistake, because it's another stale 2 weeks. Street Profit versus Wyatt 6. Daz predicted this last week to absolute perfection. He says the only thing I can see happening is that the whole tag division gets involved, and that's exactly what happened. So, fair play. I mean, that was...
I watched enough of SmackDown to see where that was going.
Finally, Daz, you can yeet in celebration. Zelina Vega's reign of terror is over.
Thank God. The women's mid-card division is no longer being held hostage.
I'm not blaming Zelina. It was poorly booked. The other week, I put a graphic in Discord that showed her last 11 matches was either some combination of Chelsea Green, Piper Niven and Alba Fire.
Yep.
That's not her fault. But Triple H clearly loves Julia. Everybody loves Julia. She looks insane in the ring. The pop she got in Saudi was the pop she deserves. It was phenomenal, both coming into the match and winning it. It's about time, and I can't wait to see what she does with this title, because she is a proper wrestler.
I'm really excited to see what's in front of her with the title. There's no point giving her the title if you're not going to book her for Evolution. Although I suppose it is a world title opportunity at the end of that Battle Royal, so it's possible your mid-card champions will be in there. Obviously, Lyra or Becky, whoever it is, won't be. They'll have their own little to-do going on. So, I was impressed by Julia. I thought Zelina looked clunky as always, but she looked a lot less clunky in the ring with a proper worker. I actually feel like this is going to be the better title on SmackDown for the foreseeable. It's going to be essentially the world title. You're going to get proper title defences, proper wrestling matches. Tiffy has went stale. The reign needs freshening up. It won't be for those who want to wait and watch SmackDown on Friday. I won't spoil it, but the person that's lined up to be, they cannot win the title. So possibly SummerSlam will get the change that we need. Probably the only proper match to write home about on SmackDown on Friday night would be this match. I must say it was good to see the women show out in Saudi Arabia on SmackDown, because the 2 best matches on the card were the 2 women's matches. And yeah, the pop is a big deal over there. Not just because it's a woman, there's also the ethnic piece that plays into it as well. She got a resounding pop, and she deserves it. She is the real deal. How long does she hold it? In my opinion, she'd hold it all the way till WrestleMania. I
was going to say minimum.
How long she should hold it, but it's what the mid-card title needs as a prestigious run, a proper run.
Did anyone notice, like, at the time when she had mentioned that it was a stepping stone to bigger things, and then Wade Barrett took umbrage to that in Past Champions, who's the only other previous champion? was
Yeah.
Chelsea Green.
Who's
I
Chelsea
love
Green?
that.
Yeah.
I love that bit
Um,
of heel commentary. That was superb.
I think I can't see them using it as a stepping stone. They don't want to hot potato that title because
I agree. It's too quick.
it's, the two previous title holders have not been bra in terms of their title runs, so they need something
Still, I
that's going to
think
elevate it, similar to what Lyra's done. And once
Still,
Lyra's finished playing
exactly
her
what I was going to
piece
say.
with Becky and Bailey, they can shuffle the deck again and move it on to somebody else. But it needs a proper contender. I would like the long-term booking for that title to be Jordan Grace over the next 6 to 8 weeks, getting into potentially even as long as Survivor Series. I'd like to see a proper.
I guess
proper
depending on how Evolution plays out, obviously she has the Women's Championship match booked there against JC Jane.
She does.
There is a chance
she's not winning
that
that though.
I would agree.
I don't think so.
Therefore, maybe you could actually just
Jordan Grace is officially on SmackDown, so that would be silly.
It would be totally silly, but it is also the WWE, so all bets are off.
I mean, fair.
I have nothing to add to what Daz said, and the only thing I would double down on is the reason that we're saying this could fuel the world title on SmackDown for a few months is because there's going to be freshness to it. I mean, I called personally for Tiff to drop the title at WrestleMania to Charlotte, and I am the biggest anti-Charlotte Hogan person on the planet. I feel as though they booked themselves into a corner by having her win so many titles 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, that they don't want to put on anymore. But I felt as though it had to change for Tiffy's sake, and I feel like we have now went 3 months too far with that. And it's it's not her fault. There is no credible challengers, and the fact is that they're clearly working to keep Stephanie Vicaire, Julia, and Jordan Grace just a little bit away from that picture to establish them, which is fine.
Yep.
But they're also already at that level, let's be honest.
They are.
Moving on, it's intriguing. There's freshness. And I hope they allow that to flourish because we have consistently praised the IC title, women's IC title on Raw for months. Do we want to talk about Punk life, or are we happy to say that we've covered enough about Cena and Punk?
No, because I feel like I'll upset people if I talk about Punk life. I did mention it briefly in Discord the other night. If you're going to cut a promo like that, don't stumble over your words like a bitch. If you're going to come across as Punk life, then you need to get it right.
It was good, but it didn't beat Cena copying the pipe bomb.
No way. No way.
It was funny though. I'll give them that. It was funny.
It was funny.
I did chuckle.
It was, and then he started talking.
Aye. We will jump forward to Monday Night Raw. As the opening segment was fine, and when we heard the music, we knew where it was going. So we know it's Io and Rhea at Evolution, fine. Everything else was pretty crap. It was good to see your actual two top guys in the ring with Gunther. So you've got your three top men's wrestlers on the show in the ring with the world title in the ring, as it should be. CM Punk should not be able to push Gunther over though. But
I think it was a slip, to be fair.
Aye. I'm interested to see where that goes. Won't talk about the main event because it's a copy and paste from every other week on Raw. It's the same 4 out of 6 guys.
But Jay Show was involved this time. So
he's usually in the match, somebody else interfered him. Anyway, we get that. We got the women's tag title announcement, but I'm going to throw out a statement here, and I'm looking for either Daz to start shaking his head probably, or some sort of nods of agreement, but I think that was the best 2-on-2 tag match we've had all year in WWE. I genuinely thought the tag match was brilliant, and the pop when Balor pins him was excellent.
I am just trying to replay the tag matches in my head.
They've all been shit.
The only tag match that was better was the TLC tag match post-Mania, but that wasn't a 2v2. So
that's why I said 2v2.
Tag team's first match on SmackDown?
Nah.
Maybe?
What I will say is
pretty good.
The Raw tag team titles, 73 days has felt like 730. The New Day, it's been a terrible title run, but their ability in the ring's never been questionable. The two of them are good wrestlers.
Yeah.
JD McDonough is incredible. It's so underrated. But he compliments
I'm
a guy like
convinced of that.
Finn
I'm
perfectly.
convinced that JD McDonough will kill himself in the ring one day because he's just determined
I
to
don't
do the
know.
most
I think
outrageous
he's
stuff.
indestructible. I actually don't think he can.
Indestructible, eh?
I really don't think the. No, I'm not even going to put that out into the world. But yeah, it was a fantastic tag team match. And the pop was awesome. And I think it was just because nobody actually expected them to go over on Monday. It just seemed like a strange time to pull the rug for under New Day. Not that they were doing anything particularly well, but it just hadn't been built as a.
What I loved about the match was there was a couple right in the middle of really close 2.9 counts, and obviously the kick out of the midnight hour was near the end, and when there was a couple of kick outs right in the middle, in my brain I'm going, this match is going somewhere. This is not a 5-minute match, this is a proper tag team match we're getting. Ross, the obvious question is, and I've asked a similar question today, have they completely wasted turning on Big E? And what is next for New Day?
God knows. Simple as that. I vaguely remember when they did, right? You know, to those of people who are new, I am the filthy casual who's getting back into this from Mania season onwards, really, is where I'm back in the swing of things. God knows when I'll not be classed as a filthy casual, maybe 2028 or something bright, but you know, at this point in time, we're definitely saying that. I do remember when we were all kind of calling it at some point and they had to do it, and when they did it, we were like, great. And then it just didn't work. Now, there's some elements were taken out of their control. You know, Big E's injury probably didn't help things. But they just aren't, they're not very believable heels because they are genuinely, as two people, so very likeable people that you have to suspend belief to a point. Similar to a lot of parallels probably with Cena, in all honesty. Like there are certain characters in that sphere that just can't work, and there's plenty that don't work as faces, and you're just really, really good to boo. It's fantastic. God knows what they do from here. I would like to see them fade back a bit. I know that there's not exactly this massive wealth of tag teams to come in. It does seem like Andrade and Phoenix is all of a sudden becoming a thing. There's some guys floating around there, but they need to go back and retool. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if maybe you just shelf them for a few months and bring them back and just hope to Christ everyone's forgot they were heels for as long as they were, and then all is okay. It's just hand waving.
Yeah, it seemed a strange. It seemed a strange decision at the time for them to turn them on Big E, and I don't mean it was the wrong time. It just seemed strange in the sense that, there was not a more recognisable tag team or money spinner for the business than the New Day. You could ship them out anywhere; they would get a massive pop.
Oh yeah,
and the angle makes sense with E because his injury. It made total sense. I get the feeling they pulled the trigger too early, and his injury was actually a lot worse than first. They anticipated he might be able to come back. Very quickly realised he was never going to be able to come back. The risk was too great. And they just totally, because it was a total veer away for the Big E stuff at a certain point, it just went into such bizarre stories. And I actually think the two of them, especially Woods, are very good heels. I think they can be very good heels. I just don't think heel tag teams are a very easy thing to get over, especially when your whole gimmick has been unicorns and cereal boxes for 10 years. Without the angle for E, it was an insurmountable challenge. However, what I do think they have is an ace up their sleeve in a face turn with E. I think there's a way for that to change. So I do think they'll write them off TV. I think they'll be away, they'll repackage, they'll come back. Maybe not immediately. I think they might be about maybe for a rematch or something like that in the next couple of weeks. But then I think they'll shuffle the deck. They'll bring in the likes of Andrade and Phoenix and maybe some Triple A guys. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, who holds the Triple A tag titles?
God, that's a really good question.
There's someone on the main roster.
You may be right.
I can see them on Friday night. I can see them as they're talking about the White Six.
Oh,
Garza?
is it no Santos Escobar? It's Dragon Lee. And
Yeah. That was annoying me. Vero.
Los Garza.
Um,
Aye, Los Garza.
Yeah, Los Garza. So there's loads of stuff that they can do for the New Day when they do want to bring them back. The heel turn was not done at the wrong time, but it was done prematurely, I think.
I don't think it was done prematurely. I just think they did it and then did nothing with it for 6 months. If they'd went straight after tag titles, I think you could get away with it. They either had to, they should have done it right before they were going to pull the trigger or pull the trigger earlier. I think that gap
I
was
just
the
think
killer.
they were waiting for the New Zone E before they could
Possibly.
put them in the title
Possibly.
picture.
I think that's a fair,
And they just
I think that's
never
a fair
came.
comment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make the assumption here, Ross, that the Judgment Day are going to remain a thing until Liv Morgan comes back, which
At least.
perhaps gives us some hope that it's not a 6 month layoff.
Did you not hear
Because I think so.
on Monday? Do you know what he said?
Oh, it
She's
would take a
rehabbing
long,
3
long
times a
time
day.
to rehab that.
Yeah. Aye.
No, that's what Finn said. But Raquel had said she'd been rehabbing 3 times a day. Whether or not that's just storyline guff, or if she actually is.
Because
I don't think it'll be
realistically,
too long.
because 2 weeks ago we were basically saying Judgment Day was on life support and they had to move on at some point. Now we're saying that, I mean, that's as big a pop as we've heard in months.
It was great.
when that pin went through. So I'm all for it. I think as far as matches go, that was as good a tag team match as we've seen in a while from 2 teams. And I think it just shows that War Raiders, whatever we're calling them this week, and American made in these teams, as good as they can be, they are a level below the New Day.
Yeah,
Finn and
absolutely.
JD and Fraxium and DIY and these guys on SmackDown, so there is a distinct drop off in level. And we shouldn't pretend that these guys are on that. It's not they can't compete, but they need to figure something out in the ring. And to be honest, that's all I want to bring up for Raw. It was a very, very bad show, and I don't know how much of that was knowing that it was back-to-back tapings. It was 5 hours in a row. I'm interested to watch SmackDown this week because you're talking about hours 4 and 5 of a taping for a crowd, and the crowd does so much of the show. The only thing I'm going to bring up, just because it has been announced as official, it will be Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton at Saturday night's mid-event, which is the type of match that can save a show. The only thing I'm not sure about is where each guy goes from that, because it's clearly going to be a one-off match. The one thing I'll say is, and I've teased it, is that the more I watch and the more I look at people's opinions of Drew McIntyre outside of the West of Scotland, because we are homos, we admit that, I think that guy's the best professional wrestler in the world right now. I just think on the mic, in the ring, on social media, there's no one. Is anyone better?
The
Is
best.
anyone better? I think he is. I think. See, when Roman disappeared every time the last 2 years, to me it was Drew that carried. He carried through the pandemic. He carried the feud with Punk last year when there was no one else doing anything. I think he's underrated. I think he should be the guy that dethrones Cena. I think he deserves a proper world title run with a crowd. And I'm open to challenge because I know he's not. I know people say it's Roman and people say Seth.
Old.
I get that.
He's too old to be the guy that dethrones Cena.
That's my thing. He doesn't need it because he got the rub for Brock Lesnar. There is no bigger rub than
and I think
going over Brock Lesnar.
I don't disagree. He carried the product through the pandemic. I don't disagree with that. He took the baton and held it well until we got the beauty that was Roman Reigns. I think not a bad wrestler by any stretch. I love the what Drew does. I think he's a level below the best wrestlers in the world. I think he's good on the mic. There's better in the company. He's good in the ring. There's better in the company. He's good on social media. I don't think there's better in the company. I genuinely don't. For me, to be honest, I would book Kevin Owens before I'd book Drew McIntyre in every single feud that you want to put Drew McIntyre in. I would book Kevin Owens in front of him because I believe Kevin's better at the other things than Drew is. Not to say that Kevin Owens is the best wrestler in the world, by the way, that's not what I'm saying. But I would put Kevin in front of Drew because I feel like in ring, on mic, Kevin is as good, if not better. It's personal preference at the end of the day. But for me,
I'm not disputing that. I just think that I feel like SmackDown has suffered in the last few weeks because you've had the Cena and Punk stuff has taken off, but obviously Punk's on Raw, which is an issue when your main feud's split. Cody bores the shit out of us as your other top guy, and I feel like there's a clear gap where normally Drew would be carrying some sort of feud there that keeps your show, whereas I think there's a guy, obviously Kevin Owens has been out, and
I think it's just a mixture of Kevin, Randy, Drew all being out at the same time has left that gap.
I think
there's
so.
nobody there to fill
so.
it. Yeah,
I think so. I'm intrigued to see where it goes with him because even there's a lot of Americans saying that he needs to go back over, and the other lingering question from SmackDown is where and when is Roman going to reappear, because it feels like he's not involved at SummerSlam either, because there's rumours that he is filming in August.
Yeah, he is indeed.
It's after SummerSlam, but are they going, maybe this is where eventually Triple H and TKO say we're not going to book him for 3 weeks at a time. He's either available or he's unavailable, because there is no path to a feud for him at the moment, I don't think.
Well, it's the same for Cena. Cena's not slated to be back on TV until like middle of July.
Yep. And I mean, people are saying the obvious match is Roman versus Seth at SummerSlam, but Seth is, as we've already discussed numerous times tonight, Seth has got so many feuds that they need to settle first. And the worst thing that can happen is that we talked about this earlier, Ross, was that Drew had this thing in the last year. He was basically going after everyone who originally opposed Roman and then decided to be his pal. They abandoned that for some strange reason because it was literally the best story going at the time. And I feel like there's a risk there that if you just kill Seth and everything he's involved in, the feud with Roman, you just kill 4 or 5 other guys like Penta and LA Knight and even Gunther. Now they're all relevant to an extent because they're close to that story.
They are.
If you pull the rug out from them, what's left?
I think it could be as far away as Royal Rumble before you see Reigns, because
I think it's
hard to put him into a story. He certainly won't be back until Rollins is world champ. So Rollins will have the belt before that even begins to become a possibility. And I just don't think Reigns is the right guy for him to be his first feud. So I don't know. For Reigns, the fact that he's filming in August into September Survivor Series is probably too soon as well. So for me, it's probably going to be, unless we do have a December to Dismember of some such added for John's farewell.
I mean, it seems to be, he could be the 5th guy on a team in War Games as a surprise or a last minute addition that isn't involved in the build up. It does appear that Cena's last match will be Saturday night's mid event in the middle of December, which might be a decent show for a change. But
nobody faces Goldberg in retirement versus retirement match.
Like, please don't put that evil on me.
If you're asking me for a list of people who shouldn't be Cena's last match, Roman's on that list. He's had the rub for Cena. I'm with you. I'm struggling to see a path. And the other issue is if he waits till Rollins is over. I think, Ross, we've discussed in this pod before, Reigns will have to at some point beat Seth Rollins in a match.
It has to happen. Otherwise,
Reigns will take the title off of Rollins. That's who will take the title off him. But because again, that elevates that title further. It goes to one set of safe fans into arguably the only other safer set of fans.
Minimum WrestleMania.
Yeah.
If not at least SummerSlam next year. Like, I don't think it should be any other one. I would go as late as SummerSlam next year. I think Rollins should have more than a 4 or 5 month run.
Oh yeah, definitely.
With a title. Golden Shovel time. So I'll reiterate the point to the new listeners. This is the booking decision that leaves us scratching our heads. There's actually been a few that we've mentioned tonight. I've mentioned the women's tag titles because of Raquel getting beat. The issue, I think, we given that the Golden Shovel is that if Rhea was always going on to Evolution for a world title match, she kind of had to win. We've mentioned Cody going over. We've mentioned Jade going over. Is there anything that sticks out for you guys? Because I think the issue is that SmackDown and Raw were so weak. It's like,
I have a Golden Shovel.
Go for it.
Asuka gets a golden shovel for me.
I like it.
The Empress of Tomorrow's return was built up, and she looked good, and then she looked great, and then you book her into the final, and you let a bodybuilder go over instead of her.
With both her shoulders up.
Bonkers decision to me. To be fair, it's the only thing the camera guy's done right in about 6 weeks was getting that for the wrong angle so that nobody could see it. But yeah, totally baffling decision to put Jade over to begin with. But the manner in which they made Asuka lose, I just feel is going to bury her momentum. It's not going to bury her as a character because she's going to be universally loved. She's a bit like Nakamura. Like, people are ready for Nakamura to move on, but he'll always get a bit of pop if you see him. Do you know what I mean? I'm just worried about what's next for Asuka because if Rhea's going to be world champ, is Asuka next in line? I don't know.
You have to assume that Rhea is either carrying a title into the Australia show or wins it in Australia. So Asuka's now
she's not going to drop it. Certainly.
She's playing second fiddle for at least 5 months.
A long time.
4 months. So I don't disagree with that. I had that. It's one I mentioned as well. I think the reason I would go with that as well is that, and you look at it kind of buries the people that were part of Asuka's matches in the return because she was booked so strongly. So I think this could be unanimous, Ross.
Yeah, other than a special shout out again to Karrion Kross, the man who has yet to take a back bump on television. But yes, I can't really disagree with anything that's been said there. I think that is a clean sweep.
Kross was actually my pick until Monday night. But the actual beatdown he gave on Monday night made me think, well, we've not buried this feud yet. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see any more of it, but we've not buried it.
Aye, unanimous, and it's the booking decision to essentially kill Asuka's strong return and everyone that helped put her over the return for injury. And that takes us nicely to the end of this week's episode, which I'm looking at the recording time is not too bad considering how much we had to get through.
Been a busy week.
And we are back next week with another prediction show because we've got Saturday night's mid-event.
Don't forget WWE Hangman.
Aye, we'll do something else maybe. Like I said, find us on all the usual socials. The link to our Buzzsprout where everything is in the show notes right at the bottom. Find us on TikTok, get involved in the conversation. Join us on YouTube, you'll see the video podcast. And hopefully when we can figure out some logistics in the next few weeks, we can bring you some additional content on that channel. I will just quickly plug our main channel, The Nerd Fandemic, on YouTube. The guys, Ross, Daz, as well as Ed or Craig and one of the other boys were at the Scotland Card Show at the weekend. There is some wrestling pickups. They will be dotted on our TikTok and they will be in the vlog in full. Yes, Daz is eating at the camera again with his pink t-shirt. So there is some wrestling content on that channel and we'll hopefully bring some more to the Golden Shovel in the next few weeks. So we will sign the podcast off there another week. Daz?
You?
Roscoe?
Been a pleasure as always, gents.
And ladies and whatever else is listening.
I can only speak to you guys. I hope there's someone else at home. Someone else at home listening.
Well, I usually leave Alexa on for the dog. That's what I was talking about.
Also, shout out to the bros in California.
Oh,
yeah, Ukiah, California. That's where the convention's coming to.
Is it Boardman,
Oregon?
Oregon.
Yeah, Boardman.
Aye.
We see you.
Please, genuinely, if you're actually listening to this podcast, go and let us know on TikTok and YouTube, or there's a link in the link in the podcast notes for fan mailers. Just let us know what you think, because I cannot believe we've got 8 downloads for the West Coast of America. It's ridiculous.
It's incredible.
So cool.
So yeah, I will bring an end to the number 17 ranked wrestling podcast. Now you're here right there. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you next week.